Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today, in this lecture, HR lecture 4, I'm going to continue our discussion of testing, employment testing. We said that we are going to discuss the major functions of HRM in independent lectures. Last week I have discussed the meaning of employee testing, why it is important to apply reliable and valid employment tests. I have also differentiated between the meaning of test reliability and test validity. I also discussed several types of test validity. And also I explained the validation process. How do HR managers validate an employee test? In this lecture, I'm going to present some of the major tests that HR managers tend to adopt. However, you have to know that there is no one best test for all cases. Actually, there are many different types of tests which measure different aspects of employees, different aspects of employee personality, physical fitness, mental abilities, cognitive abilities, whatever. Therefore, HR managers have to take care when considering the tests they want to apply. Do these tests match the quality and nature of the job, of the vacant job being advertised for? Okay, now let's begin with our first test. It is called the computer interactive testing. From the name, computer interactive testing is a test which uses computerized tools in an interactive way in order to test and measure employees' capabilities and unexpected performance levels. There are many different types of tests, of computer-based tests. These computer-based tests may examine or measure the employee's numerical ability, basic mathematical abilities, okay, reading comprehension. In other words, the employee's ability to read in English, for example, and understand the meaning of the passages being presented. Excuse me. Sometimes these computer tests are presented online or offline. Online, in this sense, online testing, in online testing, the HR asks the applicants to log in the to the university or the company's website in a specific date and time in order to be tested. They will be tested in an exam which examines or measures such employees, such applicants, the applicant's performance and capabilities. These computer tests could be conducted either online or offline. Sometimes HR managers perform or conduct telephone pre-screening before testing. Before formal testing, HR managers may conduct some telephone pre-screening. It is a telephone. They may telephone the applicants and ask them some questions. If the applicant's answers are reasonable, then HR managers may contact them again and in order to be tested. Those who didn't provide reasonable answers will not be shortlisted, or in other words, they will not be invited for the tests. This sometimes happens when the number of applicants is high. Some HR managers may prefer, before testing, they may prefer to conduct such telephone pre-screening method. There are some other types of tests which focus on the cognitive abilities. القدرات المعرفية الإدراكية المعرفية. The cognitive abilities of the employees. The cognitive abilities tests may be classified into two major types. One of them is the intelligence tests, and intelligence tests are very famous for anyone. Nearly all of us know about intelligence quiz, the IQ tests, and so on. These tests measure the intellectual abilities of applicants. These intellectual abilities here means their memory, the vocabulary richness, the richness of their vocabulary. يعني ايه ثراء المعرفة اللغوية عندهم. Verbal fluency, verbal fluency. Can they speak English? Can they talk in English? Can they write down in English or Arabic or whatever language is being tested? And their numerical ability. Usually such intelligence tests are constrained by a specific time. In other words, the applicants are asked to answer questions within a specific period of time, maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute per question. Another type of cognitive ability test is the aptitude tests. The aptitude tests measure specific mental abilities such as inductive and deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning المنطق اللي هو الاستقرائي، يعني بيقيس المنطق الاستقرائي. Deductive المنطق الاستنباطي. Okay, in very simple words, inductive reasoning means the applicant's ability to build some theoretical arguments or explanations or observations. Inductive reasoning represents the applicant's ability to develop some theoretical explanations for a specific phenomenon based on some observations. In this sense, it enables HR managers to figure out whether applicants have the ability to develop assumptions, to develop theoretical explanations of a specific problem or a phenomenon, ظاهرة, based on observations. Do they have the ability to understand or objectively observe a specific phenomenon, and based on such observations, can they make a proper and reasonable theoretical argument or justifications? On the other hand, deductive reasoning أو المنطق اللي هو الاستنباطي, deductive reasoning on the other hand is associated with the applicant's ability to make conclusions based on specific theoretical justifications. يعني based on some pieces of information. Can applicants form some conclusions, reasonable conclusions, depending on their readings and understanding of specific pieces of information? These are two important aspects of reasoning. Do they have the ability to make theoretical justifications based on observations, and do they have the ability to make conclusions based on information they have, reasonable and objective conclusions? These are very important reasoning skills that sometimes are needed in many organizational contexts. Besides, aptitude tests also may involve measures of candidates' memory and numerical abilities. The cognitive abilities tests cover the cognitive strength. The cognitive strength matters that relates to reasoning, mental capabilities and strengths. On the other hand, sometimes HR managers may prefer not to depend on mental or cognitive abilities test. They rather prefer to focus on more of physical capabilities tests or physical abilities tests. Some of the physical abilities tests measure the candidate's static strength, dynamic strength, body coordination, and stamina. Of course, you know, physical abilities tests may be applied on vacant jobs which require heavy physical activity. You know, football players, for example, if you want to appoint a new football player in your football team, you may, of course, need to conduct or apply a physical abilities test to measure whether the applicant has the basic physical abilities needed to do the functions or to play the role of a football player. Some other tests, physical tests may also be applied, such as the tests of motor abilities. The tests of motor abilities measure specific abilities which are related to the applicant's ability to concentrate, such as finger dysestry, manual dysestry, and reaction time. So far we have discussed two major types of tests. These tests, the cognitive abilities tests and the physical abilities tests. Some HR managers may prefer to go beyond these physical and cognitive abilities tests and examine personality, the personality of the applicants. By the way, many studies in psychology and human resource management, many research studies have found strong relationship between personality traits and employee performance, satisfaction, and commitment. So when HR managers measure the personality traits of employees, of applicants, they can predict whether the current personality traits of applicants match the capabilities and abilities needed or required in the company or not. Personality tests may depend on trait inventories. Inventories هنا بالمعنى اللي هي questionnaire, استبيانات, استقصاءات. Okay, these inventories measure the basic aspects of an applicant's personality. Okay, there are some disadvantages associated with personality. Personality tests need psychologists or at least very skillful testers who are able to use such tests and understand its psychometric nature in order to be conducted carefully. However, the main advantage of personality tests is that they have been used successfully to predict dysfunctional job behavior. Dysfunctional يعني counterproductive, destructive job behaviors. These tests can effectively predict the future behavior of applicants who might be working in the company, so that if personality tests indicate that the personality traits of the applicants do not match the company's culture, for example, then this means that the test predicts that the employee that this applicant will not be a good employee. So personality tests can provide objective measurement of the future performance, the future behavior of candidates at work. One of the most famous personality tests available nowadays is related to the Big Five personality traits, the Big Five personality traits inventory. There are many different tests which measure the Big Five personality trait. By the way, the Big Five personality trait is a well-established personality theory which indicates that all human beings share 5 common dimensions of personality. We all share 5 common personality dimensions. However, we, all human beings, tend to differ in terms of the intensity of each dimension. We all have the same dimensions, but with different variabilities, with different variances. We differ. Okay. For example, one of the dimensions of the big 5 is extroversion, الانبساطية. Extroverts tend to be sociable people, active, positive people, energetic. Okay. Not all people are extroverts. Some of them are introverts. It is the opposite of the extroversion. They are not very sociable, they are not very active, they prefer to stay alone, and that's it. Okay, so all people have the extroversion dimension, but with different degrees. Some people are more extroverts than others, some people are less extrovert than others, and so on. If we take the other dimension, for example, emotional stability or neuroticism. Neuroticism is the tendency to show poor emotional feelings, negativity, okay, anxiety, insecurity, hostility, pessimism. Okay, these are not bad personality traits, but it represents a negative standpoint of the world. People who are neurotic are not usually optimistic. They are withdrawing. They withdraw from the world. On the other hand, people who are low in neuroticism may be high in emotional stability, الاستقرار النفسي, and so on. There are some other dimensions, such as the openness to experience. Openness to experience, people who score high at this dimension usually are very imaginative people, creative people, unconventional, غير التقليديين, and so on. Agreeableness توافقية. Okay, candidates who score high on agreeableness tend to be very trusting of others, gentle with all people, caring with his friends, may put his friends' interests over work-related interests, and so on. Conscientiousness أو حيوية الضمير. Conscientiousness, people who score high on conscientiousness tend to be high achievers. They take pride on their work-related performance. A high level of conscientiousness represents a high level of performance, achievement, and dependability. They are people who are very high on conscientiousness are usually dependable. You can count on them. And these are the 5 major dimensions of personality. The most wanted personality dimension is conscientiousness. Almost all organizations need candidates who are energetic, who are hard workers, who are achievement oriented and dependable. So if candidates or if applicants show high levels of conscientiousness, this means that they may have a potential as hard workers at the company. So far we have discussed 3 major types of tests: cognitive tests, physical tests, and personality-based tests. Now, I cannot tell that there is one type that is superior to others or one type that is inferior to others. Actually, there is no one best test. The best test is one which can satisfy human resource management objectives in the context needed. So, HR managers have to carefully understand the nature of the job being announced, the vacant job being announced, and try to figure out what the right test needed to examine employees' capabilities. Okay, there are still other tests which employees might, which HR managers might apply, such as the interest inventory. Interest inventory, it measures the current applicant's employment interests and try to compare his employment interests with his colleagues. In other words, the current employees' interests, the current employees who work at the company, their interests, the interests of the current employees who work in the company. They try to compare the employment interests of such candidate with the interests of the current employees who work at the organization in order to determine the right location, the right department that the current applicant is willing to work in or is accepted. Okay, some other tests may involve achievement-oriented or achievement tests. These achievement tests, by the way, this is a classical type of test. Usually, many companies may employ such tests directly or indirectly, even within interviews sometimes. Within interviews, sometimes HR managers ask questions about the job-related knowledge. If you are applying as if you are applying for a financial accountant post in a specific company, then this company may conduct an achievement test in order to ask you questions to measure your abilities, your financial accounting abilities, your financial accounting knowledge. There are still some other tests which we have already talked about. It is the web-based or online testing. One of the main advantages of online testing, to conduct tests online through the internet, is to eliminate cost. It is cost efficient. You don't have to have papers, you don't have to have pencils, you don't have to allocate a room for such a test. Everybody is tested using online testing, and that's it. It's very cost efficient. Okay. Usually online tests, the scores of the online test, the candidates' scores are usually evaluated using a computer algorithm. In other words, the candidates' test scores are evaluated or measured automatically using the same program which provided the test. This allows for the elimination of the tester's bias. It eliminates the bias of interviewers and the employees who test candidates, because the computer automatically corrects the answers. One main advantage of another major advantage of online testing is that it provides immediate scoring and feedback of results to applicants. Yes, in the same minute, instantaneously, the candidates know whether they have achieved high scores or low scores. Sometimes HR managers may prefer to conduct work samples instead of physical tests or cognitive tests or personality tests. Sometimes HR managers prefer to perform work samples. Work sample, from the name sample, يعني عينة. Work samples represent or involve actual job tasks. In this context, the HR specialist asks applicants to perform actual job tasks and measure whether applicants have the skills and abilities which make them worthy of employment. On the other hand, when HR managers prefer to appoint high or senior managerial employees, they may ask the applicants to be involved in management assessment centers. Management assessment center is a simulation. It is a simulation. It is a center of it is a place which involves a number of typical simulated exercises. At this place, the applicants are asked to perform some or different types of exercises, such as group discussions, individual presentations. The applicants may be asked to conduct objective tests and do some interviews. So the Management Assessment Center is a host of different techniques of employment testing. It enables HR management to investigate applicants' capabilities and skills using various tests and measurements in order to provide a proper, bigger picture of the worthiness of the applicants. In work simulations, sometimes applicants are asked to complete some video-based situational tests. A video-based situational test it is a test which consists of a number of video scenarios. You have 3 or 4 videos. Each video discusses a case, a specific case of particular importance to the job. Okay? In each video you have a case, and this case is presented using the audio or video, okay, and it is accompanied by a number of questions. Following the video-based case, the applicants are asked to answer some questions regarding these cases. The video-based situational testing is proven to provide a objective measure upon which HR can appoint the right candidates. يبقى هنا يعني these cases and the questions accompanied with these cases measure the candidate's abilities to handle different aspects of the jobs being announced for. Similar to work samples, HR managers may also conduct miniature job training. In this job training session, the employing company trains candidates to perform a specific activity. After the completion of the training program, HR managers may ask the candidates to perform the actual activity. يعني هنا HR managers or the company trains employee on a specific activity. After the completion of the training program, the HR will ask the candidates to provide an actual representation of this activity. يعني لو كنا if the company wants specific sales representatives, if it wants to appoint sales representatives, then it may provide a course in sales management, okay, in sales management for specific fresh graduates. And after the completion of this training program, the company may ask applicants to perform actual sales representation to actual customers in order to figure out whether those candidates have learned the skills necessary or not. One main advantage of miniature job training is that it allows HR managers to measure the extent, the speed, the efficiency with which applicants learn. Do they have good learning skills? Do they have the motivation to learn or not? It's not only about the completion it's not only about the completion of a specific task, but it is also associated with the ability to learn and upgrade someone's skills. Do they have the ability to upgrade their skills? Do they have the motivation and passion to improve their skills up to the limits needed by the company? Now we will move to one of the most famous tests which Egyptian organizations, whether private or public, which Egyptian organizations usually undertake. These tests are called the background investigation. ساعات بنسميها الفيش والتشبيه. Okay, it is an investigation of the applicant's background, references, the criminal record, credit checks, and so on. It is important for organizations to have clear factual information about facts. يعني هنا HR managers have to have some important information about facts about the candidates, okay, because some pieces of information may be very decisive, okay. Usually HR managers collect background investigations or information from former employers, current supervisors, or through written references from existing supervisors, and so on. Sometimes background investigations are biased, because if HR managers want to contact a specific reference, that reference may be biased. The reference may want to get rid of this employee, so he tells the HR managers that this applicant is great, while he's not. The supervisor wants only to get rid of it, kick him out of the company. Sometimes, in some other cases, the reference himself may be biased in a negative way. In a negative way, he wants, for example, to damage the applicant's image. He doesn't want the applicant to be enrolled in your company, so he will tell you false information about the applicant. HR managers have to take care about the validity of such background investigations, because sometimes they are biased, heavily biased, whether toward the applicant or against the applicant. And this explains why HR managers nowadays move more towards cognitive tests, personality tests, and some other mentally reasonable tests. The second most famous test which Egyptian organizations undertake is the physical examination. الاختبارات الصحية. Physical examination. The physical examination examines whether the applicant has the physical requirements of the company. Does the applicant have pandemic diseases which might be dangerous to the health of his colleagues? Of course, all companies would like to hire healthy applicants in order to reduce the level of absenteeism and accidents. Sometimes the HR department may conduct substance abuse screening, اللي هو اختبارات الادمان او استخدام اللي هي اختبارات الادمان والحاجات اللي زي دي. Sometimes HR managers may feel compelled to conduct such tests, especially after work accidents. They want to know if the applicant has specific problems, drinking problems or something like this.